welcome to another episode of Crash Course World History. This is Kevin,
Luke, and Ben.
And today we are going to be talking about imperialism. For those who don't know, imperialism is the process of one nation imposing its power over another nation. And the word imperialism actually comes from the Latin term imperium, which means to command. A great example of imperialism is the Mongols, dating back to the 13th century. More recent examples, though, would be the new imperialism in China, Africa, and India, and this was mainly for land and extraction of materials. Let's start off with the Opium War. The British was actually so obsessed with tea that they traded with silver, but they ran out of silver, so they had to trade with opium instead. Opium was actually so prevalent in China that 1 in 10 people were addicted. Because of the destructive effects, it led the emperor to stand firm against the smuggling of opium. He wanted to destroy the supply in Guangzhou, but the British fought back with warships, starting the Opium War. Because of this, the people of the Qing dynasty believed the emperor was losing the mandate of heaven, leading to a series of rebellions in the 1850s. The most serious rebellion, though, was the Taiping Rebellion, led by Hong Qiuquan. He wanted to create a Taiping, Tianguo, which means a heavenly kingdom of great peace. But because of that, over 20 million Chinese people died as a result of this rebellion. In the end, though, the Chinese went to war with Japan and got defeated, which led to them being really, really weak. Foreign powers such as Great Britain, Germany, Russia, and France started to influence certain areas of China that they controlled. Because of this takeover, a secret society called the Boxers started to blame the foreigners and held Beijing hostage for 55 days. Eventually, though, the Qing dynasty fell, and Pu was the last emperor of China. And became a Republic of China in 1912.
China. And all my hotels are in China. China. Devaluing their money.
Turned communist in 1949, one of the only open communist countries thanks to communist leader Mao Zedong.
Now let's move to imperialism in Africa. Beginning in the 1870s, European countries began the race for colonial power known as the Scramble for Africa. Previously, Europeans profited from slave trade in Africa, but many nations abolished slavery in the early 1800s. This led Europeans to look at Africa for resources needed in the Second Industrial Revolution, like gold, iron, coal, diamonds, and silver. To gather these resources, European entrepreneurs set up mines and trading routes wherever needed. Political complications began in a fight for more valuable land and resources. The Boer War started between the Dutch and British in 1880, which ended in a self-governing union controlled by the British. Ultimately, Britain and France were the nations who got the most out of African imperialism. While in power, Europeans ran into few more challenges like disease and fights with natives, but new technological advancements allowed colonization of Africa to continue. These advancements included the automatic machine gun,
It's a machine gun! Machine gun!
and quinine, which leads us to our secret compartment. Today's item is the stethoscope, which represents the advances in medicinal drugs in Africa. Quinine, a drug for malaria, reduced mortality rates by over 75% for malaria. In 1884, European leaders met at a conference in Berlin to discuss territory control. The leaders agreed that a nation had to notify and prove it could control a territory before it would be considered a part of their nation. This agreement prevented conflicts between the European nations, but paid no attention to traditional African ethnic boundaries causing other conflicts. African nations like Ethiopia began to modernize and fight back against Europe. In 1895, Italian forces invaded Ethiopia and lost, keeping Ethiopia's freedom. Unfortunately, Ethiopia was the only African country able to keep their independence. Imperialism in Africa diminished after World War II. Consumed from post-war debt, European countries were forced to leave Africa to save money.
Lastly, let's move on to imperialism in India. The British arrival in India was a start to imperialism. The time period of imperialism was 1858 to 1947. This period was called the British Raj. Once imperialism started, the British East India Company ended, and the company ended following the Sepoy Rebellion. The Sepoy Rebellion started when the Sepoys were forced to bite off the tip of a British rifle with a cartridge that was greased with pork and beef fat. The problem with the soldiers having to bite off the end was that the Muslim sepoys did not eat pork and the Hindu sepoys did not eat beef. The Raj was meant to help the Indian participation in government, but instead, the Indians did not like the powerlessness, which led to an independence movement. Following this rebellion, the British realized they needed to re-establish rule in India. What made imperialism possible were the positive effects that India would give to Britain. India helped Britain expand their power, and the supply of raw materials helped them fuel factories and expand supply to them. Items like tea.
Oh, Boston Tea Party?
Not that type of tea. Jute and rubber were essential to Britain's development as an economic powerhouse. To end, imperialism was fundamental in the formation of the world we know today. Without imperialization, today's world economy would not be interlinked or of such large stature. Imperialism increased the modernization of Europe rapidly, leading to advancements in medicine, infrastructure, and overall standard of living for the entire world.
See ya.
Peace out.
Guys?
And for those who don't know, imperialism means welcome to it was the Taiping Rebellion led by Hong Chu. Losing to a series of rebellions.
Bro.
Sepoys, that's when we're supposed to point, were forced to bite off the tip.
Hey, leave
Yeah.
out and pull the.
Oh! I just now got it.
Yeah. Okay. Peace out.
China are devaluing their money. And they're taking our. They're beating our companies. It's not funny. We need to build a wall. Trump Towers, Murray. We need to get back.